The Deathworld training complex had a 73% fatality rate, and that was considered acceptable. Then a human woman walked in, eating lunch, and asked what the hardest test was. Krilovosh had seen exactly 347 recruits pass through the Deathworld training complex in his 12 cycles as head instructor, and precisely 91 of them had actually survived to graduation. Those were, in his professional opinion, pretty good odds, better than most facilities anyway. He stood at the entrance platform, all 7 feet of crystalline exoskeleton gleaming under the harsh artificial lights, mandibles clicking in what passed for satisfaction among the Kratari species. Behind him, the facility stretched out like a nightmare. Someone had carefully blueprinted, approved by committee, and then built with malicious attention to detail. Obstacle courses that had hospitalized Valorian shock troopers, gravity chambers that made then warriors weep through their gill slits, chemical baths that could strip the confidence off a Bardoon mercenary faster than their third layer of skin. This was not, by any measure, a place for the weak, or the sensible, or anyone with a functioning survival instinct, really, which made the approaching human all the more baffling. Vera Kane walked up the entrance ramp like she was heading to a mildly boring appointment, not the most notorious training facility in this arm of the galaxy. She was average height for her species, maybe 5.5 feet, with dark hair pulled back in a simple tail and the kind of expression that suggested she was thinking about something else entirely. Probably lunch, actually definitely lunch, because she was actively eating what appeared to be some kind of wrapped food item, taking casual bites between steps. Krell's primary eyes narrowed, his secondary eyes narrowed, his tertiary eyes, which he usually reserved for tracking fast-moving threats, also narrowed, just to really commit to the gesture. "You," he said, his voice translator rendering his clicks and chitters into flat galactic standard, "are the human recruit." Vera glanced up, still chewing. She swallowed. "Yeah, that's me. Vera Kane. You must be Instructor Krilovosh. Nice place you've got here. Very, threatening. Good aesthetic choices with the spikes." Krell's mandibles twitched. "Those spikes have impaled 42 careless trainees. Yikes. Maybe consider some safety railings." She took another bite of her wrap. Krell decided to ignore that comment, mostly because addressing it would require admitting she might have a point, and he had a reputation to maintain. Instead, he gestured with 2 of his forearms toward the main complex. "Follow. Try to keep up. Try not to die before we even begin the actual training." They walked past the first obstacle course, where a group of Rendaxi recruits were attempting to cross a field of electrified platforms while automated turrets fired kinetic rounds at them. One of the Rendaxi, a muscular specimen with purple scales and 4 very athletic legs, mistimed a jump and got hit with enough voltage to light up a small station. He went down screaming, foam coming out of his mouth, all 3 tongues flailing. Medical drones swooped in immediately. Vera paused mid-chew. "Is he okay?" "He will recover. Probably. The Rendaxi nervous system is surprisingly resilient." Krell kept walking, expecting horror, or fear, or at least some healthy concern. Gnarly. She kept eating. They passed the chemical resistance pools next, where a Thelonian was being extracted from a tank of corrosive gel, her protective suit partially dissolved despite being rated for exactly this kind of exposure. She was crying, all 6 of her eyes leaking some kind of bioluminescent tears, while medics assessed the damage to her outer membrane. Vera peered into the pool thoughtfully. "What's the pH on that stuff?" 11.7, Krell said. "It can dissolve most organic compounds in under 4 minutes. Spicy." She wiped a small amount of sauce from the corner of her mouth with her thumb. "We've got stuff like that back home. Well, not exactly like that, but close enough. Drain cleaner mostly." Krell stopped walking. He turned all 3 sets of eyes on her. "You compare military-grade chemical weapons to drain cleaner. I mean, chemically speaking, strong bases are strong bases, right?" She shrugged, taking another bite. "This is really good, by the way. You want some? It's chicken shawarma. Got it from that Yendari food stall near the docking bay." Krell did not want shawarma. Krell wanted this human to show some basic self-preservation instincts, but clearly, that was too much to ask from a species that had somehow convinced the Galactic Council they were ready for military integration, despite coming from a planet that was, according to every database he had consulted, absolutely horrifying. "Enough," he snapped, his translator adding a nice harmonic of irritation to the word. "We begin with the gravity chamber. This will separate the capable from the delusional. He pointed one claw at Vera. I will enjoy watching you fail, human. Your kind always boast about your supposed resilience, but every species breaks eventually. The question is simply how quickly. Wow. Okay, someone woke up on the wrong side of the hibernation pod. Vera finished her wrap, crumpled the wrapper, and tossed it into a nearby waste disposal unit with casual accuracy. But sure, let's do gravity stuff. Sounds fun. The gravity chamber was a massive spherical room, 50 meters in diameter, with observation windows ringing the upper section. Inside, gravity could be adjusted from 0.1 standard G all the way up to 8.5. Most species functioned optimally around 1 standard G. Most species started experiencing serious medical complications around 3. The current batch of recruits was attempting the 2.5 G trial. A Corvashi, built like a tank with 6 limbs and redundant skeletal structure, was crawling across the floor, each movement clearly agonizing. His breathing sounded like metal scraping against metal. A pair of Genix twins, usually known for their acrobatic abilities, were flat on their backs, unable to even sit up, their twin hearts visibly struggling beneath their translucent skin. Krell activated his communication device, increased to 3.2 G. Let us see what the human is made of. The gravity increased. The Corvashi collapsed completely. Wheezing, the Genix twins started making distress calls in their native language, high-pitched wails that the translator mercifully didn't bother converting. Medical override kicked in, reducing the gravity back to 1 standard G. The recruits were extracted, looking thoroughly traumatized. Krell turned to Vera with all of his teeth showing, which admittedly looked more threatening when you had mandibles. Your turn, human. Let us start you at 3G. Since you seem so confident. Vera stretched her arms over her head, joints popping audibly. 3Jet, sure. Why not? She walked into the chamber. The door sealed. Krell activated the gravity, watching through the observation window with anticipation. 3G would put her at nearly 3 times her body weight. She should collapse immediately, or at least struggle significantly. Vera stood there. She tilted her head side to side, like she was working out a kink in her neck. Then she started doing jumping jacks. Actual jumping jacks. Arms and legs spreading, then coming back together, again, and again. Well, this is a pretty decent workout, her voice came through the intercom.
Kind of like wearing a weighted vest.
You want me to do anything specific, or should I just freestyle it? Krell's mandibles locked in what could only be described as profound disbelief. Around him, other instructors had gathered at the observation windows, drawn by the commotion. A Saltharian combat trainer, covered in ceremonial scars, made a choking sound. A Vren tactical specialist, whose species prided themselves on stoicism, had both mouth flaps hanging open. Increased to 5G, Krell said, his voice flat. Are you insane? The Saltharian hissed. 5G will rupture her internal organs. Humans are fragile. They have no reinforced skeletal structure, no secondary cardiovascular system. Inside the chamber, Vera had started doing push-ups. She is doing push-ups, the Vreen whispered. At 5 times her own body weight, she is doing push-ups. Krell slammed his claw against the gravity controls, shutting it down. Vera stood up, brushed off her hands, and walked out looking mildly flushed but otherwise completely fine. Good warm-up, she said cheerfully. What's next? What was next, Krell decided with growing malice, was going to break her. The toxin maze had a 93% failure rate. It combined poisonous atmospheric compounds, neurotoxic mist, and hallucinogenic spores in a labyrinth filled with motion-activated defense systems. Recruits had to navigate from entrance to exit while their bodies and minds were actively being attacked by substances that could incapacitate or kill. Safety protocols were, naturally, extensive. Rendaxi recruits wore full environmental suits. Thelonians required breathing apparatus and skin sealants. Even the hardy Corvashi needed respiratory filters and eye protection. Krell pulled out a standard human-rated respirator, the kind designed for toxic industrial environments. You will need this. The atmospheric composition inside the maze includes chlorine gas, sulfur dioxide, and aerosolized compounds that attack nervous system function. Without protection, you will suffer respiratory failure, blindness, neural degradation, and eventually death. Possibly in that order. Vera took the respirator, examined it, then looked at the maze entrance where yellow-green mist was visibly rolling out like something from a horror simulation. What's the concentration on the chlorine? 50 parts per million, and the sulfur dioxide? 35 parts per million. She handed the respirator back. Yeah, I'll be fine. You will not be fine. This is not optional. The safety protocols exist because, look, I grew up in Los Angeles. Well, technically Orange County, but close enough. Our air quality index hit hazardous like twice a month during wildfire season. 50 parts per million chlorine? That's a bad Tuesday in an industrial district. She pulled out another food item from her jacket pocket, some kind of bar wrapped in foil. Besides, I've got my electrolytes. I'm good. Before Krell could physically restrain her, which probably wouldn't have worked anyway given what he had just witnessed, Vera walked into the maze, casually unwrapping her snack bar. The toxin levels inside would have knocked out a Guinness in 40 seconds. Vera made it to the first turn, took a bite of her bar, and kept walking like she was on a morning jog through a completely normal, non-lethal park. The monitor showed her vitals. Heart rate elevated but stable. Oxygen saturation normal. Neural activity patterns consistent with mild boredom and possibly hunger. No signs of toxin absorption, no respiratory distress, no cellular damage. Krell stared at the readouts like they had personally insulted his entire lineage. This is impossible, he said, mostly to himself. The neurotoxic mist alone should be causing hallucinations by now. The spores should be attacking her cognitive functions. The chlorine should be— She just stopped to read the directional markers. The Vrenin instructor interrupted, pointing at the screen. She is reading the signs. While eating. Indeed, Vera had paused at an intersection in the maze, studying the holographic markers while chewing thoughtfully on her snack bar. After a moment, she shrugged and went left, apparently making a random choice based on nothing but casual whim. She emerged from the exit 7 minutes later, finishing the last of her snack bar and looking vaguely disappointed. That was pretty straightforward, she said, wiping crumbs off her shirt. Though I gotta say, the hallucinogenic spores didn't really do much. I saw some weird colors for a minute, kind of like that time I had food poisoning in college, but nothing too dramatic. You might want to check the potency on those. Could be expired. Krell's translator actually stuttered, producing a sound like grinding gears before recovering. The spores are not expired. They are manufactured fresh every cycle. They have incapacitated trained soldiers. They have caused complete mental breakdowns in species with far more robust neural chemistry than yours. Huh, weird. Vera stretched again, that same casual movement that suggested someone working out minor stiffness rather than recovering from exposure to military-grade toxins. So what's next? Because honestly, I'm kind of hoping for something with a bit more challenge. This has been pretty tame so far. Tame. She had called his facility tame. Something snapped in Krell's carefully maintained professional composure. Fine. Fine. If the human wanted challenge, he would provide challenge. He would provide nightmare fuel. He would provide trauma. He activated the Predator Gauntlet. The Predator Gauntlet was, even by Deathworld training standards, excessive. It was a 100-meter corridor filled with actual predators, collected from various hostile planets and kept specifically for this purpose. Razorwing hunters from Kelmath IV, capable of diving at speeds that broke sound barriers, tunneling serpents from Gax Prime with venom that liquefied organic tissue, and the prize specimens, 2 juvenile Crenifax beasts, 4-legged nightmares with crystalline fangs and pack-hunting intelligence. Standard protocol required full combat gear, weapons authorization, and a minimum team of 4 recruits working together. Krell released everything into the corridor at once. Navigate that, human, he snarled. Let us see your bravado when faced with actual predators designed by evolution to kill efficiently. The other recruits, watching from the safe observation area, pressed themselves against the back wall. A Rendaxi made a religious gesture associated with funeral rites. One of the Genix twins fainted. Vera looked into the corridor, where the Crenthax beasts were already growling, their crystalline teeth glinting under the harsh lights. The razor wings circled overhead, creating small sonic booms. The serpents coiled in the shadows, sensing heat signatures. She sighed. Are they trained, or are they just going to attack randomly? They are predators. They will attempt to kill you. Right! Okay, that's kind of what I figured. She cracked her knuckles. Just checking. Because honestly, this feels a bit mean to them. Mean to them? Krell's voice went up an octave, which the translator rendered as a sharp whistle. Those creatures have killed trained soldiers. The Krenthax alone are responsible for 17 fatalities across 3 military campaigns. They are apex predators from a planet with quadruple canopy jungles and megafauna that Vera had already walked into the corridor. The first razor wing dove immediately, breaking the sound barrier with a crack that rattled the observation windows. Vera sidestepped without looking up, like she was avoiding a puddle on a sidewalk. The razor wing missed by centimeters, shrieked in confusion, and pulled up hard to avoid crashing into the wall. A tunneling serpent lunged from the shadows, fangs extended, venom already dripping. Vera grabbed it behind the head with reflexes that should not have been possible for a species without enhanced neural conductivity. She held it at arm's length, examining it critically. "Okay, buddy, we're not doing this today," she said to the serpent, which was thrashing and hissing. She walked over to a side alcove and gently deposited it there, closing the access panel. "You just chill out for a minute." The Krenthax beasts charged together, coordinated pack hunters moving with deadly precision. Vera clapped her hands sharply, twice, and yelled, "Hey, no, bad." Both Krenthax skidded to a halt, looking confused. Predators from a Deathworld, apex hunters with kill counts in the dozens, stopped by a verbal command and tone of voice typically used for misbehaving pets. Vera pointed at the floor. "Sit." They sat. "Good boys," she said, then continued walking toward the exit. The silence in the observation room was the kind usually reserved for funeral services or moments after a catastrophic accident when everyone's brain is still processing what just happened. Krell's mandibles hung completely open. His translator gave up entirely and just produced a soft, static hiss. Vera exited the corridor, noticed everyone staring at her and shrugged. "What? You spend enough time around animals, you learn body language. Confidence goes a long way. Also, I have 3 dogs at home, and one of them is a Great Pyrenees mix who thinks he's a lapdog, so comparative size ratios don't really intimidate me anymore." The Saltherian instructor made a sound like air escaping from a damaged hull seal. "Temperature extremes," Krell said desperately, grasping at his last remaining option. "We will test temperature extremes. Surely your fragile biology cannot withstand." "Sure, yeah. Let's do temperature stuff," Vera agreed easily. The temperature chambers were exactly what they sounded like. 2 rooms, one heated to 85 degrees Celsius, the other chilled to -40. Both extreme enough to cause serious injury or death to most species within minutes. The Rendaxi recruit required a specialized cooling suit for the hot chamber, lasted 90 seconds, and emerged looking like he had aged several cycles. The Thelonians refused to even attempt the cold chamber, citing the very real possibility of their fluid-based biology crystallizing. Vera walked into the heat chamber, wearing her standard training uniform. Krell watched the temperature readout climb. 80 degrees. 82. 85. Vera's voice came through the intercom, slightly muffled by the heat distortion. "Is there a water fountain or something in here? I'm getting pretty thirsty." "You are thirsty?" Krell leaned closer to the monitor. "That is your primary concern? Not the fact that your blood should be approaching coagulation temperatures? Not that your cellular proteins should be denaturing? I mean, it's hot." "Yeah, feels like Phoenix in July. Dry heat though, so it's not too bad. I'd take this over Houston in August any day. That humidity will really mess you up." Krell switched her to the cold chamber without warning, desperate to provoke some kind of survival response. -10, -20, -30, -40. Vera hugged herself and jogged in place. "Okay, yeah, this is cold. This is like Minneapolis in January. Not great, not terrible. You got any hot chocolate or anything? That would really hit the spot right about now." She lasted the full 10-minute requirement, emerged with slightly pink cheeks, and immediately pulled out another snack from her apparently bottomless jacket pocket. "Beef jerky, this time. Protein helps with temperature regulation," she explained to no one in particular, chewing contentedly. Krell had one option left. One final test that had broken even the most mentally resilient recruits. The psychological warfare chamber, sensory deprivation combined with auditory stress patterns, subliminal fear frequencies and neural disruption fields designed to attack the most basic survival instincts. It induced paranoia, hallucinations, existential terror, and in some cases, complete psychological collapse. The record for longest exposure was 4 hours, held by a Bardoon meditation master who had trained for 20 cycles specifically for mental fortitude. Most recruits broke within 30 minutes. This, Krell announced, his voice tight with something approaching desperation, is the final challenge. Pure mental warfare. No physical challenges to distract you. No external threats to focus on. Just you, alone, with your own mind. Let us see how your primitive human psychology handles advanced psychological attack algorithms designed by the finest military scientists in the galaxy. Word had spread through the facility. Instructors from other departments had gathered in the observation room, a Korvashi drill sergeant, a Yendari tactics professor. Even the facility commander, a stern Vren named Kalazeth, had arrived to witness the human who had somehow survived everything thrown at her. Vera looked at the chamber, a featureless white sphere with a single entrance. So it's like a sensory deprivation tank. We've got those at spas back home. People pay good money for that kind of thing. Very relaxing. This is not a spa treatment. This is psychological torture calibrated to, yeah, I got it. Break my mind, existential horror, all that stuff. Vera walked toward the entrance. How long do I need to stay in? 4 hours is the recommended. Cool. Wake me up when it's done. She entered the chamber. The door sealed with a hiss. Krell activated the full suite of psychological warfare protocols. Sensory deprivation, complete. Auditory stress patterns, maximum intensity, subliminal fear frequencies, cycling through every known terror response. Neural disruption fields, calibrated for human brainwave patterns. The monitors showed Vera's vital signs. Heart rate dropping, brain activity shifting into slower wave patterns. She is entering a meditative state, Kalisef observed, his voice carefully neutral. The neural disruption should be preventing that. The fear frequencies alone should be triggering panic responses. 10 minutes passed. 20. 30. Vera's heart rate had settled into a rhythm consistent with deep sleep. She is sleeping, the Saltherian instructor said, his voice somewhere between awe and horror. In the psychological warfare chamber. She is taking a nap. An hour passed. Then 2. Then 3. At the 4-hour mark, Krell deactivated the chamber with shaking claws. The door opened. Vera emerged, yawning and stretching like someone who had just woken up from a pleasant afternoon nap. Oh wow, that was nice, she said, blinking sleepily. I haven't slept that well in weeks. You should really market this thing for insomnia treatment. Total darkness, white noise, no distractions, chef's kiss. She made a gesture with her fingers that Krell assumed was some kind of human approval signal. Something inside Krell's carefully constructed worldview cracked, then shattered, then exploded into tiny fragments that scattered across the floor of his consciousness like debris from a ship collision. How? He asked, and his voice came out small, defeated. How is any of this possible? You are from a Category 7 planet, moderate gravity, stable atmosphere, temperate climate zones. You should be fragile. Your species should be weak, vulnerable, and yet you treat military-grade challenges like minor inconveniences. You eat snacks during trials designed to kill. You sleep in torture chambers. Explain this. Vera pulled out her communication tablet, tapped a few times, and held it up. A holographic display of Earth appeared, rotating slowly. Okay, so couple things about the whole Category 7 rating, she began. First off, whoever classified Earth clearly didn't spend much time actually checking the details. Yeah, we've got moderate gravity, but that's like saying a shark has moderate teeth. Technically true, wildly misleading. She zoomed in on the planet. See, Earth doesn't try to kill you all at once like some planets. Earth is sneaky. Earth takes its time. We've got weather patterns that can level cities, hurricanes, tornadoes, typhoons. We've got temperature swings from -50 to +50 Celsius, sometimes in the same location depending on season. We've got deserts that will cook you during the day and freeze you at night. We've got rainforests with more ways to poison, infect, or eat you than you can count. The gathered instructors leaned closer, watching the holographic Earth with growing concern. We've got volcanoes that just randomly decide to erupt, earthquakes that crack the ground open, tsunamis that move entire coastlines, and that's just the geology. Vera swiped to a new image, showing Earth's biosphere. Then there's the biology. Everything on Earth is either trying to eat something else, poison something else, or parasitize something else, sometimes all three. She pulled up images of various Earth creatures. We've got bears that can run 30 miles per hour and crush skulls with one paw swipe. We've got big cats that hunt in coordinated packs. We've got snakes with venom that can drop you in minutes. Spiders, scorpions, jellyfish that are practically invisible and absolutely lethal. Mosquitoes that carry diseases which have killed more humans than every war combined. And those are just the things we know about. The ocean covers 70% of the planet and we've barely explored it because it keeps trying to crush, drown, or eat our submarines. The Corvashi drill sergeant made a whimpering sound. And the best part? Vera grinned. And there was something predatory in that expression that made every instructor take an unconscious step backward. We're the apex predator. We're the species that looked at all of that everything trying to kill us constantly and said, you know what? We're going to domesticate some of these things. Make them into pets. We're going to build cities in the path of hurricanes. We're going to live in deserts and tundras and jungles. We're going to eat the things that are poisonous by carefully preparing them as delicacies. We're going to climb the tallest mountains for fun. We're going to dive to the bottom of the ocean in tin cans just to see what's down there. She closed the holographic display. So yeah, your 3G gravity chamber. That's just weight training. Your toxin maze. That's a smoggy Tuesday. Your predators. We've got worse in our backyards. Your temperature extreme. We literally have people living in both of those temperature ranges right now on Earth, by choice. And your psychological warfare chamber. Buddy, I've dealt with rush hour traffic in Los Angeles, customer service calls with my internet provider, and family dinners during election season. Your fear frequencies have got nothing on that kind of stress. The observation room was completely silent. Krell sat down slowly, his legs apparently deciding they were done supporting him. Your planet is a death world, he whispered. Earth is not Category 7, Earth is Category 15, minimum. Possibly higher. Yeah, we've been trying to tell you guys that, Vera said cheerfully. But the Galactic Council kept insisting we were exaggerating for effect. Something about humans being dramatic. Which fair we can be, but not about this. She checked her tablet. Anyway, looks like I'm officially graduated since I completed all the challenges, which is cool because I'm supposed to meet some friends for dinner at 1900 hours, and I really don't want to be late. There's this Yandari place that does amazing fusion cuisine, and they've got a waiting list. This story isn't just about aliens or training chambers. It's about how humans adapt to pressure, stress, and danger so often that extreme conditions start to feel normal.